Hello, dear friends. If everything is an illusion, why we do ourselves so much harm by thinking that it is a reality? Illusions, and therefore our reality, can be changed. Seek the most beautiful illusion, or awaken to a state of bliss that is beyond illusion. Opinion piece. Everything is an illusion. Deception of the senses. Trap of consciousness. The world is a mirage. Only you know what you need. Reincarnation is a reality. Reality is created by the brain. Spain achieves another Iberian exception with gas. Algeria discovers new oil and gas wells. Ukraine says Putin was replaced by a lookalike. Austria's gold transfer to Switzerland delayed. IMF downgrades global growth to 3.2% this year. USS Ronald Reagan aircraft carrier heads for Taiwan. IMF warns China's slowdown hurts global economy. Let's start. The most important thing is for people to realize that our three-dimensional reality is not real. That is, that it is nothing more than a trap of consciousness. What we really are is hidden from us. Our spiritual nature is our only true form. That is why the controllers spend so much time and money to make people forget everything. They use subtle techniques to keep us imprisoned. That is where the real magic lies. People will discover their true origin, what they really are, and what is happening in the world. The term illusion refers to a misperception or misinterpretation of a real external stimulus. For example, seeing an animal where there is only vegetation, or interpreting a shadow in a dark street as a person. This type of interpretation has led many authors to define delusion as the result of poor perceptual clarity and an intense emotional state. Another type of mirages are optical illusions and pareidolias. An optical illusion is any illusion of the sense of vision that leads us to perceive reality in various ways. It can be associated with the effects of excessive stimulation of the eyes or the brain, such as being dazzled after seeing a powerful light, or of a cognitive nature, in which our belief system intervenes, because everyone sees what they want to see. Samsara is the cycle of birth, life, death, and incarnation in the ancient philosophical traditions of the East and West. According to this philosophy, in the course of each life, Dharma and Karma determine the future destiny of each being in his evolution or involution. This cyclical process ends with the attainment of moksha or liberation from the cycle of birth and death. Hypnosis. Peter B. Mayer believes that only 1/3 of the world's population would pass the 5D test. 2/3 would have to repeat their schooling on another 3D planet, because the planet Earth has begun its ascension to 5D. To avoid chaos among the population, the final breakthrough towards the liberation of the planet comes when the clique has destroyed itself through the collapse of the monetary system. On one side are the controllers, who have had almost unlimited freedom on the planet's surface for 500,000 years, while on the other side the starseeds have arrived, with galactic help. Meanwhile, the awakened ones are making great progress on all fronts. The Archon family is involved in the creation of a more disconnected humankind, completely trapped in the third-dimensional matrix. They are disembodied beings on a level far below the present. They are controlled by an evil artificial intelligence. They have become empty beings without free will, and they do as they are commanded. This hypnotic magic relies on manipulation. Humankind has been taken away from its paradisiacal state. They do not want us to realize this, otherwise the Great Awakening would begin. Unity consciousness is a state of mind, the weapon to liberate us. Every human being has the right to freedom, to go where he or she wants to go with respect and love for others and nature. In the 5D world, time is eternity. No rush, no pressure, no stress. Duality. Vital Frozy reveals that all incarnated souls are fractals of higher versions of themselves. They choose to experience duality under the veil of oblivion. No one was forced to go through these experiences. Nothing justifies the failures of learning. To delegate responsibility to others is to hide one's own incompetence. Earth is a school planet and gave each of its students equal opportunity at the beginning of the creation. Every soul who chose to incarnate here knew all the rules and curriculum of this school. You knew that when you incarnated, you would have to learn all the experiences in duality. You knew that the time required was solely up to you. You knew that nothing and no one could stand in the way of your achievement if you didn't agree. You knew the difficulties, but you knew above all that the turning point of the delay is completing this journey through a world of penances and trials was up to you alone. Now the time has come to complete this long 3D marathon. It is the ultimate experience in duality. An ascension wave awaits, and approximately 1/3 of humankind will ascend to a regenerated world. This will also be the great time for planet Earth to transition into its new 5D frequency. So, if nothing and no one can prevent ascension, why do people continue to indulge in evil? It is not easy to accept that the soul follows the path of darkness when it can end its unpleasant experience. In the meantime, they decide to continue a few more millennia on the long path of ascension. Their soul plan prefers to go deeper into experiences because it is not yet ready to integrate into its higher version. News from the reset. The coalition has made great progress on multiple levels, and they attempt to send us messages of their victory symbolically in order to encourage us as multiple resignations of politicians around the world. They claim to have sized central banks in Operation Defend Europe 20 and 21, but we have no proof of this claim. According to Sun Tzu, the most important rule of the art war is, in quotes, "Do not disturb your enemy when he is about to destroy himself." A black swan event, a market crash, or the failure of a major bank is expected. People are going to be so angry about what has happened that they will protest all over the world. Supply crisis. The IMF downgrades global growth to 3.2% this year and 2.9% in 2023. Central banks' fight against inflation could increase volatility. BlackRock controls the majority of multinational corporations, along with Vanguard, State Street and banking. Larry Fink, CEO of BlackRock, says openly that, in quotes, markets like totalitarian governments, not democracies. Opinions. According to Mike Adams, it is too late to stop the global collapse. The globalists are taking steps to disrupt the food supply. The Great Reset at Davos will never happen, God willing. According to Gregory Manarino, the world economy is collapsing at its fastest pace ever. central banks continue to inflate, and housing affordability is at an all-time low. Adds Manarino, in quotes, "Be prepared for something big to happen. The big stock market crash won't happen until it happens fast." Gold transfer from Austria to Switzerland delayed. A 50-ton gold transfer by Austria's central bank from London to Switzerland was delayed due to a delay in the renovation of the Swiss central bank's vault. Spain. Lush fire in Galicia brought under control in a run of good progress. The area burnt in Spain is increasing, accounting for 38% of the total burnt area in Europe. July bids farewell with thunderstorms and a thermal respite, but will be followed by a new episode of intense heat in August. Spain achieves another Iberian exception with gas and will only reduce its consumption by 7% or 8%, half that of the European Union. Sanchez offers Spain as an alternative to Russian gas supplies in Europe. The IMF downgrades Spain's growth forecast to 4% this year and 2% in 2023. Vulnerable Spanish households could reach 15% due to rising rates. The Spanish stock market rises 0.68% on the back of company results and Wall Street. The IBEX 35 holds above 8,000 points despite the decline in Europe and Wall Street. Banco Santander falls 12% since its last results. Iberdrola profits soared 36% in June. Americas. Shakira rejects an agreement with the prosecutor's office and will go to trial in Spain for tax fraud. The Colombian artist is accused of 6 counts of fraud, each punishable by between 1 and 5 years in prison. Colombia and Ecuador prepare for volcanic activity on their border. Petro says he's scared of the Colombian presidency. The King of Spain and at least 10 presidents will attend Petro's inauguration in Colombia. The military response has not stopped the expansion of armed groups in Colombia, says the United Nations. 10 retired military officers are charged with the murder of 46 civilians in false positive cases in Colombia. United Nations reports 22 human rights defenders killed in Colombia in 2022. Clan del Golfo escalates violence in Colombia with police killings. Mexicans will receive a record 356,000 work visas in the US. New migrant caravan leaves southern Mexico in hopes of reaching the US. López Obrador promises a Franciscan poverty reform to limit the high salaries of civil servants in Mexico. Mexico's trade deficit grows in June by surprise. Argentina remembers Evita, emblem of Peronism, 70 years after her death. Taxi drivers protest in Chile over fuel hikes and the regulation of transport platforms. The indigenous movement and the government of Ecuador resume dialogue to negotiate fuel prices. The Inter-American Press Association welcomes the position of the President of Ecuador on the law of freedom of the press. Ecuador joins the Alliance for Development in Democracy. Political prisoners in Nicaragua receive more food after complaints. Spain's new ambassador to Nicaragua ends diplomatic conflict. Bukele announces a sovereign debt bond purchase to avoid default in El Salvador. Relatives of Salvadorans detained under the emergency regime call for their release. Panama's president urges dialogue to solve a serious social crisis. Panama's main trade union says it will not not stop the strike despite dialogue with the government. The controversy surrounding the national census in Bolivia is the focus of President Arce's meeting with the mayors. Zelensky calls on Uruguay to impose sanctions on Russia. Veteran Paraguayan journalist Humberto Rubin dies at the age of 87. Chavismo predicts new relations between Venezuela and Brazil after the upcoming elections. Brazil bets on green hydrogen with the construction of the world's largest factory. USA. Wall Street closes in the green and the Dow Jones rises 1.37%. The Fed raises rates by 0.75 points and doesn't rule out another similar increase in September. The Fed is in trouble. The Treasury will start to help. A change of structure is coming. IMF warns that any small shock could lead to recession. Powell doesn't think the economy is in recession right now. The US releases 20 million barrels of oil from its strategic reserve. Senate passes cheap bill to compete with China. Trump says he may run for president for a third time. Biden provokes the Chinese dragon while being attacked by a Russian bear, according to Sourcefile. The New York Times warns that morale in Ukraine has plummeted, and there are signs that the sense of unity is fraying at the edges within the Ukrainian military after 5 grueling months of war. The Chinese military will not stand idly by if Nancy Pelosi visits Taiwan. The aircraft carrier USS Ronald Reagan hits for Taiwan amid tensions over Pelosi's possible visit to the island. The White House is reportedly working quietly to make clear to Pelosi the risks of a trip. A Texas student adopts a child he found in the trash covered with ants while on holiday in Haiti. The House Intelligence Committee issues a warning about new DNA bioweapons that can touch a single person. Elon Musk says, in quotes, "The amount of attention on me has gone supernova, which sucks. Unfortunately, even trivial pieces about me generate a lot of clicks." Guantanamo preparation. According to Juan Osavin, they built new courtrooms and expanded the evidence storage and review areas. They have the port prepared to fit all the ships that can be used as a prison. NASA discovers wells and caves on the moon thermally stable at 70 degrees Celsius. Europe. A gas freeze in Russia would reduce European GDP. Russia announces it will further reduce its gas supply, causing concern in Europe. Crisis on European stock markets with gas and corporate earnings in the balance. Russian gas cut affects Europe. The euro plummets and gas prices soar by 20%. Russia cuts gas flow to Germany to 20% of Nord Stream capacity. Stagflation seems unavoidable, and the risk of recession is growing. Inflation in Europe is at an all-time highs since the Eurozone was launched, while in the US you have to go back 4 decades to find a similar situation. Airbus earns $1.9 billion in the first 6 months of the year, 15% less. Airbus cuts its delivery target and slows aircraft production growth. Lufthansa ground staff strike over pay dispute in Germany, leading to the cancellation of more than 1,000 flights and adding to travel disruptions during the busy summer season. A British presenter faints in the middle of Boris Johnson's succession debate. British astronomers developed a new way to see the first stars through the fog of the early universe. Ukraine denounces new attacks in Odessa and in the port of Mykolaiv. Ukraine and Russia maintain their standoff in Kherson and Donetsk, awaiting new offensives. Ukraine claims Putin was replaced by a double during a recent trip to Turkey, fueling a narrative that the Russian leader is ill. Shortage of sailors limit grain corridor from Ukraine. Russia will withdraw from the International Space Station project. Africa. Violent anti-United Nations protests in Congo leave at least 15 dead. Algeria discovers new oil and gas wells. Asia. 7.1 magnitude earthquake in Dolores City in the Philippines. Protesters storm Iraq's parliament against the appointment of the prime minister. Risk of default in Pakistan. Pakistan could be the next Sri Lanka. A new report ranks Pakistan fourth on the list of countries at risk of default. Pyongyang warns that joint military exercises by Washington and Seoul could lead to a second Korean War, in quotes. China. The IMF warns of China's slowdown and how much it affects the world economy. China must rethink its strategy to limit economic damage, says the IMF. There are already signs that China has been eaten from within by the Babylonian debt system, which is used to control society. China's entire financial system is collapsing. This will probably lead to the overthrow of the CCP. The CCP has been at the forefront of promoting a nationwide facial recognition camera system. This allows the authorities to identify anyone in a matter of seconds. It can then obtain their social credit rating and other data. Those who don't comply will be banned for using public transport and so on. The system is ruining them now. China designs a small nuclear reactor for submersible drones with a range of 10,000 kilometers. It will be able to propel torpedoes at a speed of more than 56 kilometers per hour for 200 hours. China launches its largest and most powerful solid fuel rocket with a length of 30 meters, a diameter of 2.65 meters, and a takeoff weight of 135 metric tons. The powerful vehicle can send satellites with a combined weight of up to 1.5 tons into space. And that's all for today. Thanks a lot, dear friends.